Welcome to the CEO Couch Show. I'm today's interviewer and your host, Rebecca Nesbitt. Today's conversation with Carly Cascella, a social media coach and business mentor with a twist of spirituality, is for you if you're stuck with your social media, if you're stuck in the I don't know, if you've ever made a poor financial investment for your business, my friend, join the club. And if you're looking for the secret of really getting out of those nights where you're questioning, why are you even doing this? Then this is for you. Let's get started.
Okay.
Welcome, Carly. Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. This is going to be so much fun. I've been waiting for this conversation for what feels like forever.
It does feel like forever. And also, I feel like the conversation already started before we started recording. So we're already in the flow, ladies that are listening in. And I'm just so hyped to have this conversation, but it's not going to start where I thought it was going to start because before y'all were here with us, then we just started talking about Carly's career journey. And I was like, I really want to hear like 2023 and on because Carly has the most amazing story. You're going to hear it. I really want to hear about that. And then she started talking about everything before 2023. And I was like, oh no, we need to start there. So, Carly, give us like a career journey synopsis before we get started and a little bit about who you are.
Oh my gosh, it's the funniest thing because my astrologer says it makes sense, but let me tell you, going through this, it made anything but sense. So if you're feeling lost and confused, I've been there. I was the president of there, I promise. So when I get ready for this. So before I even graduated high school, I was the senior accountant for one of the largest roofing companies in South Florida. I started working in an office environment when I was 13. And before I had graduated, I worked my way up and was promoted and worked directly under the controller and ran departments. And everyone hated it because I was in high school. And that was a hard thing for some people to work with. But besides the wounding, from there, I kind of made my own remote position in college because I wanted to go to Florida State and I wanted to keep making the paychecks that I was making as a college student in that role. So I kind of created my own remote position before it was cool. And when I was in college, I was going for criminology because I thought that I was going to go into law enforcement. I wanted to be the change in the world and I wanted to really help impact people. Like I felt very purpose driven my whole life. So I was getting 2 degrees and a certificate at Florida State, and I happened upon volunteering for this canine and drones event. I went and approached the guy who was running it, and I was like, "Look, I don't know how to get involved more, but I need to be here because I love dogs. Anybody who follows me sees that I have two German shepherds. Like I'm obsessed." And I was like, "Look, I will work for free. I will work whenever you need. Let me be involved in this." And I started just as a volunteer. And within a year, I was the head canine training manager for this canine company that sold scent discriminant bloodhounds to law enforcement. And along that journey, I helped establish like an actual training plan for the FBI to use as a protocol for training their dogs. And I even went on some missing person cases, and I really thought that that was where where I was gonna live in my life. And man, when you go into law enforcement as a woman or you try to break in there, we're welcomed, but that's like they'll open the door kind of, but you kind of push your way through. And so I saw a lot of that happening around me and like, just certain things that I wasn't okay with. And so I ended up leaving that role. And it was so sad. I started opening my own dog training business. I did that for a long time. I was very, very successful doing that. That was my first kind of dip into the toes of my own entrepreneurship. And I went back into corporate after that because it just wasn't making enough money. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was so young and I was making all the mistakes. I was by myself and I was taking courses and investing and doing all these crazy things. And so I went back into corporate and I just started doing social media for an IT company. And then I started doing their operations, and I ended up helping them double size, going from a $20 million company to a $50 million company within the time period of a year. And then again, it was like as a woman, I was welcomed, but I wasn't invited to sit down at the table. And it really made me sit there and think and go, wow, if I could do all of these things and I have this crazy history, this was all before I was 25. I have these crazy roles. And I was like, I want to help women. Like, I want to go do that for them. Like, I want to help women build their own freaking tables. So, from there, I started my entrepreneur journey again, and that brings me to coaching. I was offering it for free for a really long time, just helping people with their businesses, and I still didn't feel like I was making the progress that it looked like I could make online. You see online everywhere, oh, make $10,000 in your first month of coaching. And this is exactly how I did it. And I fell for a lot of the gimmicks out there. No shade on anybody. I think we all do it from like the beginning of a helpful place. But I made this really big investment, like, like $7,000, $10,000. I made like a really, really large investments. And okay, I made these investments and I thought that it was going to really solve everything for me. You know, when you're trying to make things work and you really want to make your business work, you're kind of desperate. And I feel like some of the tactics out there tend to prey on those people. And so I thought, wow, this is my saving grace. This is everything that I've been looking for. And I was deeply, deeply disappointed. I was at that point $30,000 in debt. My partner was supporting both of us. And it really just showed me exactly what I don't want to be on social media. It showed me what kind of coach I did not want to be. And all of that really kind of, um, it all really accumulated into what I'm doing now.
Oh my gosh. The FBI. I'm still there. I'm like, and also I'm like, how were you a senior accountant? Like before I even knew what an accountant was. How is this possible? Like amazing. What a journey. And you're right, like that was all before you were 25. And then I think that what you really beautifully articulated is entrepreneurship is not linear. Like we think that it is. We think that you go through school, you learn to do something, and then you just do that job. And then when it comes to entrepreneurship, you've probably got stuck at some point along that journey and decided, oh no, I've seen that, I'm having to push my way through doors. Now I have this like fiery passion to help women. And then I'm going to pivot and do something else. But you've pivoted so many times. And I think like that's what people need to hear. Like if you're someone that has done 100 million different freaking jobs. Like I had so many jobs on my resume, CV if you're in the UK. And it was so interesting because then it was never scary to try something new. I was like, oh, I'm just going to try this new thing. Whereas people that have been in like the one thing, I think really struggle. So I think that's like a real strength of your journey because then when it comes to entrepreneurship, you started up your dog training, you're like, no idea. Like, tried it, have no idea how to do it, just gonna go back to corporate. You're also young. It's also an easier like place to be. Also, it was like at a time where entrepreneurship wasn't like this shiny ticket to time and financial freedom. It was like this is really hard. People that do this, there is no support, there's no like information out there. It's really challenging. So now we get to what seems like kind of that start of 2023. We've made these big investments and they've not gone well. And we've definitely, and I say we and point this way because my husband and I have made some really big investments in the past year that just they didn't turn out the way that we wanted them to, but they actually gave us so much more because then I think you realize a few things. You realize that I can put as much money as I want on the table, but I can also walk away from it when it's not right and it's not in alignment. And then you also start to see through marketing tactics and tools and techniques that people use that feel like they're maybe not always done with the best of intentions. And I think that at some level, they are done with the best of intentions, but there's this very inflated win, and they'll pull on that win a lot instead of actually just kind of sitting with people and saying, hey, this was actually really hard. Or like, hey, this first month, because I did this, my first month in coaching, we did 10,000 UK. It was like something like 11,000. It was 10,400 UK. So it was something like 11,000 US. And people look at that and they're like, oh my gosh, like, how did you do that? And it was like, actually, I already had a pool of buyers because I'd worked with a coach and she was changing her offer. So there was a bunch of clients there not being served that knew me, that liked me, that trusted me. And I absolutely burned myself to the ground for 60, 90 days. And I did everything. And I was talking like DMs, sales calls. I would jump on a sales call in a second. I was practicing those sales skills. I was selling at high ticket and I just like went in. I remember listening to Alex Hermosi at the time and like love him or hate him, this was the advice I got. That's all I'll say. And he said, I don't do a morning routine. He's like, I wake up, I drink coffee, and I just work. And I did that. And that's not right for me now. But at the time, I thought that's what I had to do to be successful. And I think I had an idea of what success was that wasn't necessarily what it was. So I think we all learn the best lessons from very poor investments. And it does, like, it shapes you as an entrepreneur. So I'd love to hear more about that journey of 2023 to now in terms of what changed. Like, where were you at the beginning of the journey? So we're talking like 30K in debt, your husband's supporting both of you. Like, oh my gosh, a moment for the husbands. Like, and for the wives and for the parents that also support these journeys, because there are times when, dear Lord, do we need it? And no one talks about it. So a moment for them, but you're in this situation, and then what shifted? Because that's not the person that's sitting in front of me today. So, like, spill the tea. Spill the
Yeah,
tea.
there is so much tea to be spilled. And just going to like, this debt, I think when you're, starting out now as an entrepreneur, like it's very, very different, like you were talking about. Like you look anywhere online and it's almost like you have another course and this course and that one and the other thing. And so by the time that I had invested in this course, I was already like $70,000 in on just random courses and random buying and just trying to get as much knowledge as I could, because I think that we are so like thirsty for that knowledge and we want a sure answer. Like we want, the reason why these inflated win tactics are working is because we want a guaranteed answer to our problem, and we want that security, and that feeling of security. And entrepreneurship is honestly the the anti-hero to security. It really, really is. And so yeah, I made this investment, and it really put me in a dark place. My fiance was telling me like, look, you you either make it this month or it's back to work. Um, and I notice clients, like I work with clients who are really wanting to make something happen. I think we all do. We don't come into business to fail, you know? So I remember obviously lots of sleepless nights. I think one of the most helpful tactic, I was actually helping a client write this piece of content, but on the darkest night when you're just sitting in bed and crying and asking why, and like, those just really deep, like, I don't know why this isn't working out for me, when this coach has all these examples of other people that it has worked out for, and you think that something's wrong with you and you internalize that. And so it's just this like huge combination of all these big feelings. And there's a difference and there's a shift in the energy of the desperation where, like, I need the sale, I need the sale, I need the sale. That energy is very repelling. And if you're in this similar situation, for anyone listening, when you shift that into, there is no other answer, I am finding my way, it is such an empowering place to be. And I know not everyone has that accessible with their mindset and just like where you are in your personal, like internal journey. But if that's available to you and you switch that mindset, like it becomes so powerful. I think something that's really important to note in what you were talking about with making $10,000 your first month, one of the biggest keys to my success was networking and building relationships and letting myself be seen in these other programs that I was involved in. Like this one program, I didn't get what I wanted out of it, but I did make a lot of connections with other women who were also not having a great experience. And I love how Rebecca, the content queen, talks about the invisible algorithm, because I think that that's something that's so, so valuable when you just start talking with people. So I started offering my services for free. I started doubling down on the amount of people that I was reaching out with and having organic conversations and just trying to make friends and build a community. And the thing that I learned through that is that we were all struggling. Like social media makes it look like there's this big highlight reel, and we are actually behind the scenes, real talk, all struggling. Like I said, there's no guarantees. We have no idea if what we're doing like works the first time. And there are so many different intricacies like mindset and things that really put a jaw, a wrench into, the success that you're feeling. So once I started doing that, my whole world changed. In that 6 months of time, I had a broken into Kia. Like, if you know Atlanta, that's where I am located. They love breaking into cars. It's a sport. They don't even take anything, they just crack windows. But my Kia was broken into. We were starting it with a USB, being in the debt, not doing anything. And then in the 6 months, I had like a 4,600% growth in my business, which if you can imagine growing that much, everybody's like, yes, the growth. Um, and yeah, it was happening for me. And I was also working a ton. But yeah.
I think something that was really powerful that I will 100% take away is when you're talking about that desperation mindset. I think we've all heard that before. Like, if you've got desperate energy, then people aren't going to buy. But then I think that people try and change it into being a money magnet overnight. Like, you'll listen to some kind of affirmation song every day for 30 days and things will miraculously change. But the shift that you're talking about is, oh no, I'm going to find a way. This has to work. And I think that's so, so powerful, because it's then not energy that's like, take it or leave it. Like, I do a lot of sales training where I'm like, buy or don't buy, like I'm good. And that's how I've always really approached sales. And I probably will continue to do so, but also with this new kind of understanding that's a gift, thank you, from you to me and to everyone that's listening, but there's also this concept of finding a way. And I love that you've mentioned it, because I think sometimes the universe, she loves to, validate what's going on. And I was watching, have you ever heard of Naiad, the movie?
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So everyone has to watch
Writing it
Naiad, the
down.
movie. And it's amazing, but it's about Diana Naiad. And in her 20s, she's a swimmer. So she's a swimmer all her life, and she tries to swim from Cuba to Florida. And she tries it in her 20s and she doesn't complete it. And then she stops swimming. She goes into like sports broadcasting. And then in her 60s, she decides she's going to do it again. She's got this like new lease of life. She's like going to do it. And it's a story of, does she make it? I'm not going to spoil it. But on her last attempt, whether she makes it or not, again, no spoilers, on her last attempt, what they changed the verbiage to was find a way. That was it.
Mm, I have full body chills
Me
as you're
too.
saying this.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And that's what
absolutely.
you're
Yeah.
saying. Like, that's what you're saying. Like, the mindset shift is not, oh, just don't be desperate. Because that's impossible especially when you're in significant amounts of debt. Like, it's just, you can't think or logic your way out of it. You're like, I've just spent all this money and now I don't know. Whereas the concept of finding a way really puts you back in the driver's seat. It gives you back your autonomy. It gives you back your control. And I think that's really what everyone's seeking in the entrepreneurship journey is like, do I have control of this as a situation? Like, is this going to pay my bills this month? Is this going to pay for all the other things that I may need and or want? So that was incredible. I don't think you'll ever know how much of a mindset shift that was for many people that are listening, as well as myself. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I think it really, I think what it really does is it accentuates a lot of the biggest thing people come to me, especially with social media, is like, I don't know what to post about. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I help people. I don't know this, that, the other thing. I think what it also does is it takes you out of that I don't know, and it stops letting that be an option because I love you, but if you're sitting in the I don't know, it's you're gonna get stuck there. And it feels like a very stuck, sticky, stagnant place. And it's very uncomfortable to be there. And sometimes, like our subconscious is looking outside of us and we're like, no, that's more uncomfortable. But I promise you that when you shift that to, I wonder if this will work. I'm definitely like, this is going to work for me eventually. And you can shift into those other possibilities. It's like a really easy way to get over that hump and just kind of step into like, it's going to happen. I wonder how it will. And it allows you to explore those things without attaching it to your worthiness. Because I promise you that if you have this business, this thing on your heart, it's there for a reason. It's not on there for some cosmic joke. It's not on there, for it not to happen for you. I mean, all of us, I'm sure, who are listening to this would love to just be able to go and do a 9 to 5. Not that that's better or worse, but like when it's like you have this thing that it's like you have to. And sometimes it would be easier not to. So just know that that's there for a reason. And if you can just lean into that, I'm going to make it happen. It really shifts a lot for you.
I think that that's the answer to the question is when it comes to your social media content, find a way. Like it's not, I can't post today, it's find a way. And now that we're on social media, I could take this conversation a million different directions. Like this is fire. But now that we're on social media, why does content always seem to be the last thing on everyone's to-do list? Because this is the number one piece of feedback that we got in creating our membership, the CEO crowd. This was the number one thing that people were talking about was, I never get to my social media. And we started doing a social media co-working once a month so that people had an opportunity to come work on their social media. But people feel like it's just never getting done. And I'll be really honest, and this is what I would have loved to have gotten into, but maybe this is another conversation for another day. The growing pains of extraordinary growth. So, something that you'd mentioned before you came on, I hope you don't mind me sharing this,
Go for it.
was you just opened a container and have 15 brand new clients. And in January of this year, we onboarded 21 new clients. And the growing pains that come with that giant shift in clients has definitely put me in a place of social media is the last thing on my list. It's not really getting done to the degree that I want it to get done. And I'm certainly not alone because our whole community feels the same. So, why do you think that is?
There are a beautiful amount of reasons why this is the way it is. And so I could go and talk, honestly, I could talk 8 hours on this topic. But to keep it kind of simple and to put it in a context that everyone can really connect with, our brains are wired for risk versus reward. Like that's really like what's coming to me with this. And so when we think about showing up on social media, there is all this risk. We could be canceled, we could be judged, we could be laughed at, we could be, you know, thought of like another toxic, online business coach. There are infinite ways that we are risking ourselves by putting ourselves online. Like we are not programmed and hardwired to potentially reach millions of people that we're not even seeing in front of us, that we have no concept of how far our message goes. And so we have all of this risk. And then the rewards that we're looking at, like, of course, we want a successful business. Of course, we want those things. But a lot of the times when we're making content and it's part of our routine, we are looking for the rewards of big wins. we are like, okay, well, if I have to post and deal with all this other stuff, I better get, 10 new followers or go viral or, insert X of what you want social media to be for you. And so when you're thinking about risk versus reward, and I just lay that out to you, it's like, no wonder we don't want to make content because we are putting in all this effort. We are trying to fit ourselves into boxes. We're trying to use the hook formulas and captions and kind of almost like some of my clients have referred to it as being a dancing monkey. And if that resonates with you, like sometimes that's how it feels. And so showing up in that inauthentic way, showing up with all those fears. And then we have all these past experiences of maybe we do that, we get over the speed bump, we get ourselves to post, and then nothing happens. And you're like, what did I do that whole song and dance for? It would be like if you put on a performance on a stage and nobody came to it. It would be really disheartening. And I think that sometimes we don't really acknowledge the part of ourselves that's really deeply hurt by putting all that effort and not seeing any reward for it, So I would say that in a nutshell kind of like is a very good explanation. Obviously, you can go into every single fear, you could go into every single reward. We could talk about this, like I said, forever. That's like a good overview of like why. And I just want you to extend this kindness to yourself for understanding that like you're human too. And when you look at it and it makes sense, it allows you to like kind of just relax your shoulders a bit. Like there's a reason why. The way that I like work to combat those within my own coaching, within my own clients, is addressing each problem separately. So if we're talking about the risk, how can we work on reducing the risk that you're feeling? Can we work on mindset and do modalities like EFT and visualizations to like clear that? But also, I address a lot on the whole monkey dance thing. And I think that a way people can really feel fired up about social media is connecting more to the reward side of saying a message that is deeply you, that is deeply helpful. And I'm getting like chills as I'm speaking about this, but I think that when you can turn the formula around and view the reward as you even having the opportunity to be on a platform, you being able to share your message, and more recognizing and putting significance on those 300 people that did see your content or those 1,000 people that did. Because I guarantee you, if 1,000 people were in front of you right now, hearing what you had to say, it would be pretty powerful to you. But we're chasing this metrics and these number games. And again, all of these topics themselves could be like a 30-minute talk. But, that's kind of like the biggest things I see.
Yeah. I think that was genius, inspired, wonderful, fantastic. If you've ever seen that reel of Lady Gaga where she's just saying all these like affirmation style words, like I feel like that's what that was. And I think as well, like some of the risk to us can also be it's my time, it's my energy, and then it's diving into the beliefs behind that, because I think that there is real fear there and there is real risk. And if we can address it, then that's, I think, the mindset work that the gurus are saying is in the way. I think sometimes they can also be a significant lack of strategy, but this is genuinely the mindset work that works, is addressing what that is for you, because everyone has their own favorite excuse, right? So if you can identify like where is that coming from, then you can start to figure out how to get by it. And like you say, it's focusing on the reward. Something that we talk about a lot in my coaching is we always do remember the vision. Like in my one-to-one coaching, I preach this so hard. I will literally like WhatsApp them every single day. I'm like, remember the vision, and like bring that in, like bring that reward in as a result of what you're doing, so that you know that you're taking steps to get there. And if the reward changes, it's probably going to be greater than you ever imagined. So that's fine too. So that's something that we do that's like very in alignment, because I 100% agree. Like we focus on all the things that could go wrong instead of all the things that could go right. And that again is its own energetic shift. So just before we close out, I would love to just get like your thoughts on energy and spirituality as a part of business, because that feels like it's something very unique and something that you do differently than like your other social media managers that I'll see online.
Yeah, that's such a big part of what I do because I went through for a long time and I would only consider myself, it's wild. I did not, as of 6 months ago, think that I was intuitive or that I was any kind of anything. So for me to be sitting here 6 months and having that be a major approach, that was a huge shift for me. And that shift came from helping women in their businesses and giving them all the strategy, giving them all of the things, like as a coach, like when you have invested as much as I have or as you have a lot of tools in your toolbox. And so I'm throwing the toolbox at them. I'm down there fixing whatever I need to with them, and nothing was happening. And so I think that there is this spirituality and authenticity that comes in from finding why you are really here and deepening and doubling down on that. Because when you listen to my story over and over and over again, it is clear that like I start at a position and then I get promoted and then I'm done with it. I'm moving on. And I tried other businesses and nothing was feeling right. Like you know, right now you know when something just doesn't feel like right. And thinking back to, before my big business growth, when I made the shift to really step into, I was terrified, but to really step into like this full coaching role. And really, I call it answering the call because I was
Mm.
terrified of it, but I knew that I needed to do it. I needed to explore it. And so I think that there is this energetic movement. Like I'm not even sure what I believe in, like universe, source, God, whatever it is that you believe in, higher self. It's like we're in this beautiful co-creation process, and the minute that you find your purpose, what makes you special, what makes you stand out, what taking all the random things that you've done in your whole life and making them into something that only you uniquely could do, the minute you answer that, everything takes off. And I'm proof of that. And so I think that that's really an angle that I take in my coaching that's very different, because we do a lot of exploration around like what really lights you up and why. What are your special talents, and what about your backstory doesn't make sense, and how can we make it make sense, and how can we come from a place of service with it.
Yeah, that's so powerful. That's so powerful. And I think as well, what you were articulating there too is that no matter what you believe, God, Buddha, universe, Yoda, whatever it may be, like it's completely up to you. But there's something driving all of this world. Like there has to be. There's no way it just happened. So if that's the case, then can we just believe that there's something that's kind of on our side that's designed us for a particular purpose? And can we lean into that and dive into that? And that's, sometimes called your purpose, sometimes it's called your why, sometimes it's called your dharma, whatever it may be. You didn't just not get one. So maybe you've just not explored it yet. Maybe you've not seen it yet. Maybe you're training dogs when you should be training people with their social media and you just don't know yet. So I think that that was such a wonderful note to end on. So thank you, Carly, for your time. And before you go, we are going to be getting together on Thursday, the 2nd of May. We will
Yeah,
be
we are.
Yeah, we are. We'll be in the CEO crowd. I cannot wait for what you've got in store. We'll have a masterclass with you that will all be about ideal client language and interests and your content pillars, but done in a way that is tactical. We're going to actually create some content alongside you. So you will be in the room and be there to support. And that's just going to be such a wonderful experience. So we're very excited for it. And I would love, as a closing note, just if you have a message for anyone who wants to come along to that masterclass, the people that are already in our community, and the world about your approach to social media, whatever that may be, we would love to hear it.
I would have to say that my most controversial opinion is throwing out the niche worksheets. I do not believe in niching down, and that is a hot take. That is a hot take. I think that niching down is an attempt at understanding how to message properly. And I think that messaging, when it's combined with your authentic why, your purpose, your interests, and the way that your clients are speaking and using language that they use, that is the sweet spot. And telling you, like I've done this masterclass before, the results are, I am blown away. Like somebody just did it. They were going from 18 views to a couple of thousand with like under 200 followers. So I can't wait to share this with you. I'm so excited. It is one of my favorite things to teach, and it really just encompasses all the random things. So know that nothing is by accident. And I cannot wait to do that with you.
Oh my gosh, that was so wonderful. Thank you so much, Carly.
Thank you.